Hi everyone, it's Rax, bringing you a video that I think a lot of you look forward to every single season, the class tier list. There have been a lot of crazy changes that Blizzard has made, and the seasonal theme is going to bring probably the highest power level to Diablo 3 that we have ever seen right before Diablo 4. And there's a lot of final changes that they could sneak in at the very end that we're going to try to anticipate that might shake up the entire list as well. Let's jump in and let's see where every class landed right before we head over to Diablo 4. Let's very quickly talk about the methodology of this tier list. We rank every class from 1 to 7 in 6 different classes. Speed is the ability to farm T16 Rifts, Bounties, and low-level GRs. One thing about that is almost every class can just crush these things. So this is probably by far the hardest category to rank because they all just dominate. Solo pushing is their ability and quality of life in pushing the solo boards. Group DPS is how desirable they are in groups, if they fill a meta role, how good they are in the speed group, paragon grinding, and things like that. Support, pretty self-explanatory. How well can they support other classes? The casual category is very important. Some people don't play very much, don't have a lot of skill, they don't have a lot of knowledge. That's fine. A lot of it has to do with whatever comes as the free set from Haedric's gift. How powerful is that? And the final summary of where every class ranks. The golden rule, of course, at the bottom: play whatever class you want. Don't let me or anybody else tell you how to have fun. Let's very quickly go over what did come in the Season 28 patch notes. There is a new progression system called the Altar of Rights. You have to make 26 sacrifices to get massive damage, defense, quality of life, extra drops, and potion superpowers. What happened to the classes? Barbs got their Frenzy build buffed to A tier. That's a Haedric's gift, so you start with that. CruSADer's got no changes so far. Demon Hunter's got a brand new Natalia rework. We expect it to be S tier when they're done with it, and more changes are coming to it, I'm sure. And their multi-shot build was also buffed to A tier. Monks, their raiment was reworked. It's still not very good. Maybe they'll sneak in some final changes, but just punching everything is not a great way to play. POJ, which is what you're starting with from Haedric's, was buffed to A tier. Necros, their Masquerade, their Bone Spear build used to be like the best build in the game. Then they nerfed the living crap out of it. Now it's getting buffed back to A tier because it's the starter build. Probably the right change. Witch Doctor's got nothing, which is very sad. And Wizards, the Typhon's Veil, which is the Hydra set, got buffed to A tier, also the starter set. Now here is probably the most important slide in the entire tier list. What do we expect Blizzard to do from now until the season actually launches? One question I get all the time is, Rax, why don't you make the tier list after the final patch notes? Well, of course, that's the obvious answer. I would love to do that. The problem is sometimes we don't get the patch notes or we don't get any of the last minute changes until right before the season starts. And people always ask me for this way earlier because they want to have some knowledge and they want to make some decisions much earlier than that. So let's talk about what I expect them to do, but I'm not exactly sure about any of it. The first thing is the potion power at the bottom has conduits that just clear the game for you. There is no way Blizzard is going to keep that. It's going to get nerfed in some way. And maybe in number 2, they will buff other nodes to compensate for that. That should just benefit every class and keep everything about even. The spike trap mechanics are probably going to get reworked because a lot of people in the community have been complaining that it's exactly the same playstyle as all the other builds that they made. It's the same playstyle as the God DH. It's the same playstyle as the Brain Dead build from last season. It's the same playstyle as the Goblin Blaster. It's another spin to win build. What I expect them to do is make spike traps a little bit more manual. You have to more tactically place the traps, but to compensate for the lack of quality of life of just spraying them everywhere, I'm expecting them to make it much more powerful. So it'll probably be a super strong build. Then to compensate for that, the community has been asking them to buff the God Demon Hunters. God, once again, used to be one of the best builds. Blizzard nerfed it and nerfed it and nerfed it and nerfed it so many times. It's still good, but it's not even like their best farming build anymore. If you're going to take away our spin to win build for spike traps, give it back to us from the God DH, and I think they're going to do that. The final 2 things are Witch Doctors and CruSADers got absolutely nothing. So we're expecting some buffs to come from them. One idea that has been very popular for CruSADers is give them the sanctified power from last season. Let your pony automatically throw the lightning storms. If that's true, it's going to make it better for casuals and it's going to make it better for speeds. And the problem with Munda Nugu, which is the starter set, is the Manitou rune, the little sprinkler on top of you, doesn't do enough damage. If it did more damage, Munda Nugu Witch Doctors could farm much easier, and when they're solo pushing, they could actually kill the boss, in under 10 minutes, because their boss fight is one of the worst ones in the game. These are some ideas and some expectations that I'm hoping to see put into the final patch notes before it launches. So now let's jump right into it. And just like last season, the CruSADer is just as sad as ever. Still the worst at everything with no changes made to CruSADer. They're not going to improve in anything, especially when not all the other classes are getting something. You do get their best build from the Hadrig's gift down there. So you are starting with, what you want, but instead of a Season 29 request, as we discussed on the previous slide, what about giving them the Auto Lightning Pony? If they got the Auto Lightning Pony, all of a sudden for speed clearing, they would be way better than 7th. They'd move close to the top, and also it would be way better for casuals. You put on the set, you put on your Auto Lightning Pony, and you pony, and everything dies. So that would be super good as well. It wouldn't affect any of the middle numbers. It's still going to be 7, 7, and 7 if that's what they decide to go with, and they're still going to be last. So CruSADers are in a really bad state. I feel very bad for CruSADers in general. I think cumulatively they have been the worst class pretty much ever since I started content creation 4 years ago. Really, the only time they were ever good is when Heaven's Fury first came out. So I don't know. It's not a good time to be CruSADers, and I apologize for you guys. Maybe you get something last minute, but it's not looking good for next season. Coming in 6th, we have the Witch Doctor. Now, the Witch Doctor is not as bad as it might seem. Munda Nugu is pretty powerful. The problem is Munda Nugu is very hard to play. Someone even of average skill level at this game cannot possibly play Munda Nugu correctly with generating the right damage from their spirit barrages and accumulating the damage in their COE cycles and jumping in the Oculus and doing things like that. It's just far beyond normal gameplay, and so it's hard for them to get value out of that. But starting at the top for speeds, Munda Nugu might be pretty good, especially if we get what we're asking for, especially if they buff the Manitou rune. You can run around with a sprinkler on top of your head, and if that sprinkler actually does damage, they might actually have a pretty good speed build. For solo pushing, they do have some options. We mentioned Munda Nugu, but that one's tough to play. Arashir Spiders is pretty darn good. It's pretty powerful. It shreds the boss as well. Zuni Dagger of Darts is an incredible build, but its survivability is 0. But this season, you have a lot more defense. Way more defense than in the other seasons. So Zuni Dagger of Darts might all of a sudden be playable now by like the average player, and its output is insane. So not as bad as it might seem sitting in 6th place. For group DPS, Witch Doctors are amazing. They always have been. Munda Nugu is one of the best trash clearers, and Arashir is like tied for first for best boss killer. They can definitely deal damage. It's the other things that are the problem. Supports, they're pretty good, but to be honest with you, nobody plays support Witch Doctor. For casuals, they're not that great. It just matters if they buff Munda Nugu or not. It's just a very hard set to play. It's just a matter of how powerful the sprinkler is going to be next season. Overall, we have them in 6th. Their best builds are Spirit Barrage, which is Munda Nugu, Arashir, and Zuni Dagger of Darts. This season, not next season, please, Blizzard, buff their sprinklers so everyone starting with the Witch Doctor having that set can actually dominate. In 5th, we have an absolute utter tragedy. My favorite class, and the class that's usually toward the top of the tier list, as all the way down in 5th. But Barbarians took a massive, massive hit from losing the buff last season. They had the Hoda power, which was one of the best ones in the entire game, and they had the Whirlwind power, which was probably the best power in the entire game. And All they got was a little buff to Frenzy, and then all the other classes got new and exciting stuff, and the Barbarians are just falling. For speeds, Barbarians are really good if you can put together Whirlwind. The problem is you start with Savage Frenzy, which got buffed, which isn't that bad, but compared to what the other classes have, it's just not as good. And even if you put together Whirlwind, it is not better than some of the other options. That's why they're falling. In solo push, Barbarians can do extremely well. They will easily clear 150 with one build, Raycore Boulder Toss. Especially if they have a lot of extra resources, that's going to make Raycore do incredible this season. Not a lot of people like to play it. It's like a skill shot. You have to aim things. A lot of times it has very low survivability. But this season, it's going to help again with the seasonal theme. So that's going to be really good for Barbs. But Hoda has went way down from losing the power. Whirlwind has went way down. They'll do okay, but it's going to be nothing spectacular. For the same reasons I just mentioned, they're just not that good at group DPSing. Maybe Raycore Boulder Toss can do something. Savage Frenzy can kind of RGK, but it's nothing compared to an Arashir Witch Doctor, and nothing compared to a Wrathman Necro. So you probably won't see that either. Barbs are always the best supports. We had a big argument, maybe argument's the wrong word, a big discussion today on stream about, who are the GOAT supports. Demon Hunters are amazing, but they pretty much are one-trick ponies. Demon Hunters just magnify your damage. Barbs magnify your damage. They give you crowd control immunity, which actually doesn't matter this season because you have crowd control immunity for free, but they give you massive damage reduction. And they pull all the monsters from the entire rift into one area, and they pixel them for you so you can slaughter them down with area damage. You're never going to convince me, ever, that Barbarian isn't the best support in the game. Casuals, they're dropping. They have probably the worst starter set. If you want to use that, it'll be fine. If you want to transition into Whirlwind, it'll be fine, but it's nothing great. For all that, they dropped to 5th. Very sad. Barbarian's my favorite. Season 28, the best builds are Whirlwind, Hoda, Frenzy, Raycore, and Z-Barb. For Season 29, their worst set by far that does nothing is Immortal Kings. We need to redo that. Coming in 4th, we have the Monk, and the Monk is really looking good next season. The Monk is pretty strong across the board and have pretty much no weaknesses. For speeds, they're very good. You're going to start with Patterns of Justice, and it just got buffed. It's a spin-to-win build that can crush just about anything in the game. And if you really want additional speed, you can use that to build Ina Ally. It's one of the easiest builds to put together because all you need is one item to make it good, which is the Crudus Boots. You gamble for that at level 1. On your leveling journey, you just crush right from the beginning. They're very speedy. Dashing Strike is incredible. So no matter what you're doing, monks are really, really good at that. In solo pushing, they will do pretty well. LOD Wave of Light is still going to be carrying them. I thought actually by now it would be nerfed, but it doesn't seem to be nerfed. And remember, LOD Wave of Light has 2 problems. One, you have to keep resetting your Epiphany. That way you can stay alive to block your Stone Gauntlets. But this season you're immune to crowd control, so you can't be Stone Gauntleted. The second thing is the amount of damage that you deal is usually directly correlated to how much spirit you can generate because you need to throw the waves of light. But the Monk this season has the resource on crit node. So if you crit, then you get your resource back, which means you can throw infinite waves of light. So it's already godly. You can't be Stone Gauntleted, and now you can just throw bells forever. It's going to be amazing. They're still not going to be the best, but they're going to be amazing. For group DPS, they're okay. You can bring Wave of Light to anything. They will do fine, but there are better options. Nothing crazy to say there. Support monks this season are going to absolutely suck because they're just not as good as gathering at Barbs, and their main claim to fame is shielding and healing. We don't need shielding and healing this season. We have a lot of extra defense. It's going to be all about damage, and that is not the Monk's strong suit. That's why they're dropping. For casuals, they're a great choice. You start with Patterns of Justice. It's a spin-to-win build. It's super powerful, and it got buffed. You can use that to move into Ina Ally or LOD Wave of Light, and you will crush the entire season. I guarantee it. Overall, they're in 4th. Their 3 best builds are LOD Wave of Light, Ina, and Patterns of Justice. For Season 29, monks would be so much better if their pets weren't so stupid. I wish Blizzard would fix that. Coming in 3rd, we have the Necromancer, and a lot of people saw the Necromancer on the PTR absolutely terrorizing everybody. But remember, one or two changes, or maybe both, are going to be coming. Either they're going to get rid of that infinite conduit nonsense, or they're going to get rid of their ability to reset their potions so they keep spawning potion powers, or I don't know, maybe they're going to do both. Even if they do all of that, Necromancers are still insane for next season. For speeds, they just aren't as fast as the other classes anymore, but they can still get it done. They're going to start with the Bone Spear set. It's very good because they just buffed it, and that's fine. The problem with the Bone Spear set is it's kind of clunky because you throw a Bone Spear and then it's actually dependent upon your sims and where your sims throw their Bone Spears. Again, relying on pets is never a good idea. You could build the Rat Necro, and that's fine, but the rat is squishy, and if your Land of the Dead falls off, then you have some problems. It's just not as good of an option as that some of the other classes have anymore, but it will do just fine. Don't let that 6 in speed affect you too much. All of the classes are pretty speedy. For solo push, they are gods. They have Death Nova. There's multiple versions of Death Nova. There's LOD Death Nova, there's Trag'Oul Death Nova, and Necros are gods of clearing 150s, but they suck at killing the boss. Except now they can keep spawning power pylons. So now they have they can potentially have a power pylon on the boss. Now it's not a problem anymore. So they are right there at the top. They will obliterate 150 solo, and they may actually end up with the fastest time in the world. We'll have to see. It's going to be between them and Wizards. But make no mistake, the power of the Necromancer is terrifying. For that reason, they're the best at group DPS. Once again, bring a Death Nova Necro, they're going to destroy everything. Z Necros are very, very strong. They're very good in rats. They freeze the entire thing. They give you a really high crit hit chance. They have super high mobility. They give you curses. They're fantastic. You'll see Z Necros the next season, I guarantee it. For casuals, they're pretty good. Bone Spear, again, is a good build. It's powerful. It's pretty tanky. It'll be just fine. It's just kind of middle of the road. It's nothing great and it's nothing terrible. Overall, that puts them in rank 3. Their best builds are the LOD mages, which is the Rats, the Rathma, the Bone Spear, the Death Nova, and the Support Necro. For Season 29, their set that sucks now is Pesty. What is the future of Pesty? What are they going to do with it? Nobody knows. Coming in second, we have the Wizard, and Wizards are gods of everything. Now, one thing I do need to explain is you'll notice that we had Wizards in 6th last season for solo pushing, and they were actually a lot better than 6. So why did that happen? Happened for 2 reasons. Remember, we make the tier lists a little bit early, and in the early rounds of the PTR and the discussions with Blizzard, the Tal Rasha on the PTR was terrible. In fact, our request for them was redo Tal Rasha again in the tier list as a joke, but Blizzard took that seriously and they made it really good, and Tal Rasha ended up being really good. Another reason why we didn't think Wizards are going to be good last season is because their powers didn't buff Tal Rasha at all. They had to use the Storm Armor power, which was, I guess, something, but it was practically nothing. But we move forward in this season. Tal Rasha, they reworked it last season. It's incredibly good. And while all the other classes lost a really good seasonal power, Wizards lost practically nothing. And they didn't get nerfed. So Tal Rasha is going to rule the world. For speeds, you're going to start with the Hydra set, which just got buffed, and the Hydra set is crazy. You can teleport around everywhere, you lay one Hydra in the middle of the room, and the whole room dies. And you just go to the next room. Remember, you have auto pickup and you have auto salvage, or at least with a gigantic radius. So this is going to work very well for Hydra. So Wizards are going to be very speedy. When you get your Tal Rasha going with what I think it's called Aether Walker, when you have infinite teleports, when you teleport into the room, it just throws meteors and everything's going to die in one hit. They're going to be very speedy and super powerful. In solo push, I expect them to win. It's going to be them or the Necro. We'll see who it is. But as you saw, I put a video out about a week ago. I said Tal Rasha Wizards are going to rule season 28. I just annihilated that 150. Granted, they had like the bogus conduits there. But even if you took that away, I would have, let me try a couple more times. I would have cleared it. They're going to smash 150s next season. It's going to be completely crazy. For group DPS, same thing. Tal Rashas. You can get a bunch of Tal Rasha Wizards, throw a bunch of meteors, everything's going to die. Support Wizard is fine. It's just not as good as the other ones, so nobody ever plays Support Wizard. Casuals, it'll be really good. You're going to feel really, really speedy on your Hydra build, and then you're going to want to put together Tal Rasha, and then you're going to feel like a god. If you are worried about completing your altar, if you're worried about farming 6 primals, if you're worried about the GR 110 solo requirement, if you've never done a GR 110 solo, I guarantee you, even with a very, very low skill level, not a lot of time to play this game, if you make a Tal Rasha wizard and build it even close to correctly, all you have to do is throw meteors, and you can do a 110 easily. I promise you. I'll make a guide and show you how to do it. Overall, they come in second. The Season 28 best builds, you're going to start with Hydra, then you're going to use that to build Tal Rasha. Season 29, one of the coolest builds that they have is Chantoto Veers, but nobody ever plays it anymore because the other builds are outshining it. I'd love to go back to that and see what they can do with it to bring it back up. And finally, at the top, what could possibly be better than a wizard? Well, I think actually the Demon Hunter might be better. This has a couple of assumptions, though, which I think will come true, but I think that they are going to release the Spike Trap as a kind of manual build that is godly. So if it's super godly and if it's S tier, those 2 4s in the middle, the solo push and the group DPS could actually be higher. Could be as high as 1 and 1. I have no idea. We'll see where it ends up. But if Spike Traps are as powerful as I'm thinking that they might be, it's going to be crazy. And then to compensate for it, I'm expecting them to buff God not quite to its previous glory, but I think it's going to be really, really strong. And here's the big piece. It's the starter set. They're going to give you the God DH to start with. It's probably going to be like the best bounty build, the best key farming build, the best speed farming build. The only thing that's even as close to as fast is probably the Mystic Ally, Water Ally, but I think the God DH will do a lot more damage. And again, you get it for free. That's why they're number 1 in speeds, and that's why they're number 1 in casual. You're essentially getting gifted the best set in the beginning. So that's going to be a godsend. Solo push and group DPS will just completely depend on where Spike Trap lands. I expect it to be really good. I expect that they'll be able to do 150 no problem. Even if they can't, a Marauder will be able to do it and things like that. So they'll get 150 down no matter what. Every class will, I think. But it's just, this one's very hard to calculate. They're going to change the entire mechanics of it. They're going to probably change a lot of numbers on it. Even like a really good mathematician, you're not going to be able to get it exactly right until you play it. So historically, we would see that they come in way stronger than we think that they do. The best example is Tal Rasha last season. PTR was really bad. Like it was so bad that we were like, oof, this was a total miss, and then it ended up being godly. So we'll see how that turns out. For supports, Z Demon Hunters are godly. They magnify your damage tremendously. They're kind of one-trick ponies, but I mean, that's all you need in this game is magnified damage. Some people would say they're the best support in the game. It's not the craziest idea in the world. I just don't think they're better than barbarians. Overall, they're the best. Demon Hunters and Wizards and Necros, oof, those classes are going to be pumping. The best builds next season are God, probably the Spike Trap build, the Marauder, and the Support Demon Hunter. The Season 29 request, probably the build that just makes no sense, that nobody plays anymore, and it just sucks, is their Rapid Fire build. What's the future of that? What can we do there? Let me quickly pause on the ranking summary here so you can take a screenshot. Let me quickly recap some of the things that go into this summary. I don't have that CruSADers have the Lightning Pony here. If they have the Lightning Pony, their speed rank and their casual rank will go way up, but they're still going to probably be the worst. If Witch Doctors get a better Sprinkler build, their speed will go up and their solo push probably will go up a little bit. They'll probably still be in 6th though. We're expecting Demon Hunters to have an S tier Spike Trap build in 1st, and we're expecting the God DH to go up to compensate for them taking away our Spin to Win build. And we're also assuming that Necros are not going to be able to just instantly win with infinite conduits and infinite potions. Blizzard has to fix one or the other, otherwise the season's going to be totally busted. And a quick look here at the best builds by category shouldn't be too surprising based upon what we talked about earlier. And finally, a quick look at the best builds by class based upon what you're doing on the left and which class you want to play. It's in alphabetical order if you want to make some decisions about what you'll be doing next season. Well, that's it for the Season 28 class tier list, guys. Before we wrap up this video, I want to thank you guys for the last 4 years. When I first started content creation, I didn't even have a tier list. I don't know how many seasons ago I started making it, like 8 seasons ago. I started doing it, had a completely different template for it, took your guys' feedback. I learned a lot as a content creator. I still have a long way to go. I hope I can get a lot better over the years, but I've really enjoyed thinking about and theory crafting and testing this content for you and trying my absolute best to give you the honest opinion on how things are going to go. And for all the kind words and, the shares and the likes over the years, thank you guys. It's meant a lot to me. I don't think this will be the last tier list I do for Diablo 3. I think we will do it again. We'll at least try in Season 29, even though Diablo 4 is out. We'll see if there's still interest in this game, but I don't know. You never know what's going to happen in life. So if we all just move to D4 and this is the last one, I just want to thank you guys. It's been a great journey, and I've appreciated all that you guys have done for me. Anyway, final question for you guys. What do you think is going to happen? What are you going to play? I don't know. I think the safe bet is just to go God DH. To farm everything and then maybe build a Tal Rasha wizard and you just crush everything, no problem. What are you going to play? That's what I want to know. Anyway, many more guides are coming. We got, I don't know, we don't know the release date, but I expect it to be, what is it, the 24th? I think it's coming out the 24th, if that's a Friday. That seems like the most likely date. So it's coming in 2 weeks. I'll see you guys then. Thank you.